In the vast darkness between stars, where civilizations rise and fall like waves against cosmic shores, there exists a universal truth that every species learns eventually. Underestimating your enemy is the fastest way to dig your own grave. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds. Their military doctrine was flawless, their technology superior, their soldiers bred for war across generations. They had faced plasma cannons that could melt mountains, energy shields that could deflect asteroid impacts, and warriors who could leap across canyons in powered exoskeletons. What they had never faced was a human with a rifle lying motionless in tall grass, breathing slowly, waiting patiently for that perfect moment when wind, distance, and heartbeat aligned into something the galaxy would remember as the day Earth's children taught the universe a new kind of fear. This is the story of how the mightiest military force in known space learned that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the one that makes the loudest noise. It's the one you never hear coming. The first transmission from the Zephyrian Empire arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Dr. Sarah Chen was sipping coffee in the Deep Space Communications Facility in Colorado when the Universal Translator began processing what would become humanity's introduction to galactic politics. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of the third planet," the message began with what the translator interpreted as barely concealed amusement. "We are the Zephyrian Empire, rulers of 47 worlds and masters of this galactic sector. Your planet has been selected for integration into our domain." The being on the holographic display stood nearly 8 feet tall, with scaled silver skin that seemed to shimmer in their artificial light. Its 4 arms moved with fluid precision, while its elongated head bore 6 eyes arranged in perfect symmetry. Behind it, Sarah could see the gleaming interior of what was clearly a warship, all smooth curves and pulsing energy conduits. "We have observed your species for several rotations of your star," continued Fleet Admiral Kezeth, though his name wouldn't be known to humans for another 3 days. "Your technology is quaint, your military tactics outdated, and your weapons laughably primitive. However, we are not without mercy. Surrender peacefully, and your people will be granted the honor of serving the Empire in various capacities." The message continued for another 20 minutes, outlining terms of surrender, integration protocols, and the consequences of resistance. But it was the casual dismissal of human military capabilities that would prove to be the Empire's first critical error. Within hours, the transmission had reached every major government on Earth. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session while military leaders across the globe began assessing their options. The consensus was grim. Humanity's weapons technology was centuries behind the aliens, and their fleet of ships currently approaching the outer solar system numbered in the thousands. General Marcus Rodriguez stood before a wall of screens in the Pentagon's Crisis Center, watching as radar stations tracked the approaching alien fleet. The ships were massive, each one larger than any human vessel ever constructed. Their energy signatures suggested weapons capable of glassing entire continents. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Walsh from her station, "we're receiving another transmission." The hologram flickered to life again, this time showing a different Zephyrian. This one wore elaborate armor and bore additional cybernetic implants that pulsed with soft blue light. "I am Warcast Threx, commander of the Advanced Reconnaissance Force," the alien announced. "We have completed our preliminary scans of your defensive capabilities. We are disappointed." The alien's 6 eyes seemed to focus directly on the camera, creating an unsettling effect for everyone watching. "Your kinetic weapons fire small metal projectiles at pathetically slow velocities. Your explosive devices rely on primitive chemical reactions. Most amusing of all, we have detected warriors who lie in concealment for extended periods, attempting to eliminate single targets from great distances with these crude projectile weapons." A sound that the translator interpreted as laughter filled the transmission. Other Zephyrian voices joined in, creating a chorus of alien mirth. "These snipers, as your data streams call them, are particularly entertaining." Threx continued, "Hiding in bushes like frightened children, taking shots at ranges our infantry considers point blank. Our personal shields can deflect your bullets like raindrops, and our enhanced vision can detect heat signatures from distances your best marksman cannot even see." The laughter grew louder. We almost feel pity for these delusional warriors who believe distance provides safety. In our military academies, we study the sniper tactics of dozens of conquered species as examples of primitive thinking. Your version is by far the most pitiful we have encountered. General Rodriguez felt his jaw clench as the alien continued its mockery. Around him, career military officers sat in stunned silence as their profession was dismissed as child's play. However, Threx said, raising one of his forearms, we acknowledge that some of your population may possess marginal training. Therefore, we extend this offer. Send us your finest snipers, your most elite marksmen, and we will demonstrate why such tactics are obsolete. Consider it an educational opportunity before your integration into the Empire. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in heavy silence. Sir, Walsh said quietly, they want us to send our best snipers. They're making it sound like some kind of demonstration. Rodriguez nodded grimly. He'd served in 3 wars and commanded operations on 4 continents, but he'd never faced an enemy that actively mocked Earth's military capabilities before even firing a shot. They want a demonstration, he said finally. Get me Colonel Thompson from Fort Bragg, and find me our ghost. Ghost, sir? Walsh asked. Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez, best sniper we've ever trained. They call her the Ghost because her targets never know she's there until it's too late. While the Pentagon scrambled to respond, the Zephyrian fleet continued its approach. Their ships moved with an almost casual confidence, maintaining perfect formation as they passed Jupiter's orbit. Long-range sensors detected no weapons charging, no shields powering up. They weren't even treating Earth as a potential threat. On the flagship Eternal Dominance, Admiral Kezith reviewed the preliminary invasion plans with his senior staff. The holographic display showed Earth's major population centers, military installations, and strategic resources. The planet possesses adequate mineral wealth and a surprisingly large population for such a primitive world, reported Sciencecast Vurin. Initial projections suggest we can extract sufficient labor and resources to justify the conquest costs within 2 standard years. Excellent, Kezith replied, his 6 eyes scanning the tactical data. And their military response? Warcast Drex's image appeared via communication link from his advanced ship. Negligible resistance expected, Admiral. Their most advanced weapons appear to be nuclear fission devices, easily countered by our standard planetary assault protocols. Their individual warriors are poorly equipped and rely on tactics we abandoned millennia ago. What of these snipers that provided such entertainment earlier? Asked another officer. Threx's laugh echoed through the command center. They have accepted our challenge. Apparently, they believe their elite marksmen can somehow impress us. I have arranged a simple demonstration. We will place one of our warriors in an open field, and their sniper may attempt to eliminate the target from whatever distance they choose. The gathered Zephyrians found this highly amusing. Their personal energy shields had never been penetrated by kinetic weapons, and their enhanced physiology could survive impacts that would pulverize most organic beings. Shall we make it more interesting? Suggested another warcast. Perhaps we should allow them multiple attempts, just to be sporting. More laughter filled the chamber. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath the Nevada desert, Elena Vasquez was receiving the strangest briefing of her military career. The 32-year-old sniper had served in conflicts on 3 continents and held records for long-distance precision shooting that would likely never be broken by another human. They want to make it a public demonstration, explained Colonel Thompson, spreading out satellite photos and tactical assessments. They're so confident in their superiority that they're treating it like a show. Elena studied the data in silence. The aliens' proposed test was simple. One Zephyrian warrior would stand in an open field, and she would be allowed to engage from any distance she chose. The aliens had even specified that their soldier would remain stationary for the duration of the attempt. It's a trap, Colonel, she said finally. No military force offers their enemies a free shot unless they're absolutely certain it won't matter. Agreed. But Washington wants us to take it anyway. They think it might give us intelligence about their defensive capabilities. Elena nodded, understanding the real purpose of the mission. This wasn't about winning. It was about learning how their technology worked before the real war began. What's my support package? She asked. Thompson smiled grimly. Everything you want. New rifle, custom ammunition, whatever equipment you need. The entire defense budget is at your disposal. Over the next 72 hours, Elena worked with military engineers and weapons specialists to prepare for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. They modified her Barrett M82 rifle with enhanced optics and precision components that pushed the weapon to its absolute limits. The ammunition was custom crafted, each bullet perfectly balanced and loaded with experimental materials. But even as she prepared, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that conventional weapons wouldn't be enough. The aliens' confidence suggested they had defensive technology far beyond human understanding. The demonstration was scheduled for dawn on the 4th day after first contact. News media from around the world had been invited to witness what the Zephyrians called an educational display of technological superiority. The chosen location was a flat desert in Nevada, selected because it offered clear sightlines for several miles in every direction. As the sun began to rise, Elena took her position on a ridge approximately 2 kilometers from where the alien soldier would appear. Through her scope, she could see the area where their target would stand. Completely open ground with no cover for hundreds of meters. At exactly 0600 hours, a Zephyrian transport ship descended from the morning sky. It landed with barely a sound and a single figure emerged. Even at 2 kilometers distance, Elena could see that the alien was massive. Easily 8 feet tall and powerfully built. Its silver armor gleamed in the early morning light, and energy patterns flickered across its surface. The alien walked to the center of the designated area and simply stopped. It didn't take cover, didn't scan for threats, didn't even seem concerned about the sniper it knew was watching. It simply stood there, arms at its sides, waiting. Through her radio, Elena heard the alien's voice broadcast on all human frequencies. "We are ready for your demonstration, human sniper. Take your shot whenever you are prepared to learn why your tactics are obsolete." Elena controlled her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow as she entered the zone that made her the deadliest marksman on Earth. Through her scope, she could see the alien clearly, standing completely motionless, apparently unarmed, radiating absolute confidence. She knew this first shot would fail. The aliens wouldn't have offered this demonstration unless they were certain their defenses could handle anything humanity could produce. But that wasn't the point. The point was to learn, to gather intelligence, to find weaknesses that could be exploited later. Elena took a deep breath, held it, and slowly squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder with its familiar recoil. Through the scope, she watched the bullet's trajectory toward the alien target. For a moment, it looked like the shot would connect perfectly. Center mass, exactly where it needed to be. Then the energy shield activated. The bullet struck an invisible barrier approximately 6 inches from the alien's chest and simply disintegrated. Not deflected, not stopped, completely destroyed on a molecular level. The alien didn't even flinch. Laughter echoed across the radio frequencies as Zephyrian voices responded to the failed shot. "Pathetic," came the broadcast from the target alien. "Is this truly the best your species can produce? We have children who could survive such feeble attacks." Elena chambered another round, but she knew it would be pointless. 5 more shots yielded identical results, each bullet completely destroyed by the energy shield. Each failure met with more alien laughter. "Enough!" came Admiral Kezith's voice over the communication channel. "You have seen the futility of resistance. Your most elite warrior cannot even scratch our basic defensive systems. Surrender now, and we will consider mercy." As Elena packed her equipment, she felt the weight of failure settling on her shoulders. But mixed with the disappointment was something else. Analysis. She had seen how the shield operated, noticed the timing of its activation, observed the energy patterns that flickered across the alien's armor. The first shot had failed, just as everyone expected. But Elena Vasquez was still learning, still adapting, still preparing for the moment when the aliens' confidence would become their weakness. The real war was about to begin. The footage of Elena's failed demonstration played on every news network across Earth within hours. The images were devastating. Humanity's best sniper, using the most advanced rifle technology available, completely helpless against alien defenses that seemed almost casual in their effectiveness. The Zephyrian laughter that accompanied each failed shot became a soundtrack of despair for billions of humans. But in a classified facility 3 levels beneath the Nevada test site, a very different conversation was taking place. "Play it again," Elena said, staring at the slow-motion replay of her final shot. "Focus on the shield activation timing." Dr. Amanda Foster, the facility's lead physicist, manipulated the holographic display, breaking down each millisecond of the bullet's approach and destruction. "There," Elena pointed. "Right there. See that flicker in the energy pattern?" "I see it," Dr. Foster replied, highlighting the anomaly. "The shield appears to have a brief power fluctuation approximately 0.003 seconds before impact. But Elena, we're talking about a window measured in microseconds. No human could time a shot to exploit such a brief opening." Elena smiled grimly. "No human could time one shot, but what about multiple shots, arriving simultaneously from different angles?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. General Rodriguez, who had been reviewing casualty projections, looked up from his tablet. "You're talking about synchronized fire from multiple snipers." "More than that," Elena continued, manipulating the display to show different trajectory angles. "I watched their transport ship land. It's completely silent, uses some kind of gravitational manipulation instead of thrust. But I noticed something. The energy signature from their shields interferes with their other systems. When that soldier activated his personal barrier, the transport sensors flickered." Dr. Foster leaned forward, suddenly interested. "You're suggesting their defensive systems aren't perfectly integrated?" "I'm suggesting they're overconfident, because they've never faced coordinated precision fire. Every species they've conquered probably relied on mass firepower or single high-energy weapons. But we humans have something they haven't encountered. We're really, really good at working together to kill things efficiently." Over the next week, while the Zephyrian fleet continued its approach to Earth, Elena worked with military engineers to develop what she called the Ghost Protocol. The plan was audacious in its simplicity and terrifying in its requirements. Instead of one sniper, they would use 12. Instead of standard ammunition, they would employ specially designed rounds with tungsten cores and electromagnetic accelerators. Instead of firing from one position, they would coordinate shots from multiple vectors simultaneously, with timing precision measured in microseconds. The technical challenges were enormous. Each sniper would need to be positioned exactly, with perfect calculations for wind, gravity, and atmospheric conditions. The communication system would need to coordinate the shots with atomic clock precision. The ammunition would need to be manufactured to tolerances that pushed human technology to its limits. But the biggest challenge was human. The plan required 12 of Earth's finest snipers to lie motionless in hostile territory for potentially days, waiting for the perfect moment to take synchronized shots that would either save humanity or confirm their complete helplessness. Elena wasn't the only one analyzing the failed demonstration. In research facilities around the world, scientists and military strategists were dissecting every frame of footage, every energy reading, every scrap of data they could extract from the brief encounter. At MIT, Professor David Kim was working with a team of graduate students to model the Zephyrian shield technology. "It's not magic," he insisted, pointing to the energy signatures they'd detected. "It follows physical laws, which means it has limitations. The question is finding them before the invasion begins." Meanwhile, in Russia, former Spetsnaz sniper Viktor Petrov was reviewing the footage with his own perspective. He had served in conflicts where a single shot could change the course of battles, and he understood something that many analysts were missing. "They made mistake," Victor said to his handler, speaking in his heavily accented English during a secure video conference with NATO command. "This demonstration, it is not about showing strength. It is about psychology. They want us to be afraid, to surrender without fighting." But fear cuts both ways, da. His insight was forwarded to Elena's team, where it sparked a crucial realization. The aliens hadn't just demonstrated their defensive capabilities. They had revealed their mindset. They were so confident in their technological superiority that they were willing to give potential enemies detailed looks at their systems. This arrogance would become the foundation of humanity's response. The Zephyrian fleet entered Earth's orbital space on day 12 after first contact. Their ships were arranged in perfect formation, each one a monument to advanced engineering and military might. On the flagship, Admiral Kezith reviewed the final invasion plans with satisfaction. Planetary resistance appears to have collapsed completely, reported intelligence cast Varen. Human military communications show widespread demoralization following the sniper demonstration. Several nation-states have already indicated willingness to negotiate surrender terms. Excellent, Kezeth replied, his 6 eyes focusing on the tactical display. Begin standard pacification protocols. Target their command centers and communication networks first. Leave the population centers intact. We'll need the labor force. But as the Zephyrian ships moved into position for their assault, they failed to notice the subtle changes occurring across Earth's surface. In 12 carefully selected locations, human snipers were taking positions that had been calculated with mathematical precision. Each position offered perfect sight lines to predetermined coordinates, with environmental factors measured and compensated for down to individual air currents. Elena lay prone on a ridge in Colorado, her modified rifle trained on empty air 3 kilometers away. Through her enhanced scope, she could see the approach vectors that Zephyrian dropships would use when the invasion began. Her radio crackled softly with position reports from the other 11 snipers spread across the globe. Ghost 2, position confirmed, came the voice of Marine Sergeant Mike Chen from his position in the Philippines. Ghost 3, ready, reported Canadian sniper Sarah Mackenzie from her post in the Arctic. One by one, all 12 confirmed their readiness. Each sniper had spent the past week preparing for a shot that would either mark the beginning of humanity's resistance or the final demonstration of their helplessness. The alien assault began at dawn, Eastern Standard Time. Dropships descended from the main fleet like falling stars, their silent engines carrying troops toward Earth's major cities. The ships were beautiful in their way, sleek, organic curves that suggested advanced understanding of aerodynamics and aesthetics. Elaine watched through her scope as the first dropship approached her sector. The craft was moving in a predictable pattern, following the exact trajectory that human computers had calculated based on observed Zephyrian tactics from their other conquests. Contact, she whispered into her radio. Ghost 1 has visual, beginning final approach calculations. Around the world, similar reports came in as other snipers acquired their targets. The dropships were maintaining perfect formation, their crews undoubtedly confident that no ground-based weapons could threaten them at such altitudes. Through her scope, Elena could see individual Zephyrians through the dropship's transparent sections. They looked relaxed, casual, some appearing to be in conversation with their comrades. These weren't soldiers preparing for battle. They were occupiers arriving to claim territory they considered already conquered. Ghost Leader, this is command, came General Rodriguez's voice through her earpiece. All positions report ready. Authorization is granted for Ghost Protocol activation. Elena felt her heartbeat slow as she entered the zone that had made her legendary among human snipers. But this shot was different from any she had ever attempted. She wasn't aiming at where her target was. She was aiming at where 12 different targets would be in exactly 17 seconds, accounting for their movement, wind patterns, gravitational variations, and the travel time of specially designed ammunition fired from positions around the globe. Ghost Team, this is Ghost Leader. Initiate synchronized targeting sequence. Across Earth, 12 snipers made final adjustments to their weapons. The ammunition they carried had been manufactured in the past week using techniques that pushed human metallurgy to its absolute limits. Each bullet was a masterwork of precision engineering, designed not just to penetrate alien shields, but to arrive at precisely the same microsecond as 11 others. Synchronization confirmed, came the voice of the mission's technical coordinator. All teams show green. Counting down from 10. Elena's scope was trained on empty air, but she could visualize exactly where her target would be when she pulled the trigger. The calculations had been checked and rechecked by the most advanced computers humanity possessed, verified by teams of mathematicians, and confirmed by atmospheric monitoring stations around the globe. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, execute. Elena squeezed the trigger with the same smooth motion she had perfected over thousands of training rounds. Around the world, 11 other snipers did the same. 12 bullets left 12 barrels in perfect synchronization, beginning journeys that would converge on a single dropship from precisely calculated angles. The bullet left Elena's rifle at over 4,000 feet per second, its tungsten core spinning with perfect stability. Similar projectiles were traveling through the atmosphere from positions in Russia, Canada, Australia, Japan, Brazil, and 6 other countries. Each bullet had been manufactured to identical specifications. Each rifle had been calibrated to matching standards. Each shot had been timed to microsecond precision. Through her scope, Elena watched the dropship continue its approach, its crew still unaware that anything had changed. She could see individual aliens moving about the craft's interior, their casual movements a testament to their confidence in their invincibility. The first bullet struck the dropship's shield generator at exactly the calculated moment. The alien defensive system activated instantly, creating the familiar energy barrier that had effortlessly destroyed Elena's demonstration shots. But this time, the shield faced something unprecedented. Not one bullet, but 12, arriving from different angles at precisely the same microsecond. The energy shield flickered. For 0.003 seconds, exactly as Elena had predicted, the defensive system experienced a power fluctuation as it attempted to process multiple simultaneous impacts from different vectors. In that microscopic window, 11 more bullets struck the dropship from carefully calculated angles. The shield collapsed entirely. Without its primary defensive system, the dropship was suddenly vulnerable to weapons it had never been designed to counter. 12 tungsten core bullets, each traveling at over 4,000 feet per second, punched through the craft's hull with devastating effect. The dropship exploded. Through her scope, Elena watched as the alien craft disintegrated in a fireball that lit up the morning sky. Debris rained down across several square kilometers, marking the first successful human attack on Zephyrian forces. For a moment, the radio channels fell silent. Then, one by one, reports began coming in from the other Ghost team positions. Ghost 2, dropship confirmed destroyed. Ghost 3, target eliminated. Ghost 4, Splash 1 alien craft. All 12 synchronized shots had found their marks. 12 dropships carrying hundreds of Zephyrian troops had been destroyed in the same instant by a coordinated attack that the aliens had never imagined possible. On the Zephyrian flagship, alarms began blaring for the first time in the fleet's military history. The tactical display showed 12 simultaneous losses, each dropship destroyed by what appeared to be primitive kinetic weapons. Impossible, Admiral Kezith hissed, his 6 eyes fixed on the casualty reports. Our shields are impenetrable to their projectile weapons. Admiral, reported Tactical Cast Nexus, preliminary analysis suggests coordinated fire from multiple positions. The shield generators appear to have been overwhelmed by simultaneous impacts. The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. For the first time since the Zephyrian Empire had begun its expansion, their supposedly invincible technology had been defeated by what they considered primitive weapons, wielded by an inferior species. This is impossible, Warcast Threx transmitted from his advanced ship. No species has ever developed such coordination capabilities. Our intelligence indicated that humans primarily fight in small, unorganized groups. But even as the aliens struggled to understand what had happened, Elena was already preparing for the next phase. The Ghost Protocol had worked perfectly, but it had also revealed humanity's capabilities to the enemy. The aliens would adapt their tactics, strengthen their defenses, and return with countermeasures. The first shot had echoed across the galaxy. Now the real war would begin. Through her radio, Elena heard General Rodriguez's voice. "Outstanding work, Ghost Team. But this is just the beginning. They know about us now, and they'll be coming with everything they have." Elena smiled as she began dismantling her rifle. The aliens had spent the past week mocking human snipers, dismissing Earth's marksmen as primitives playing with obsolete weapons. They had just learned the first lesson about fighting humans. Never underestimate a species that has spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing efficiently from long distance. The galaxy was about to learn what humans had known for centuries, that sometimes the most devastating weapon isn't the one that makes the biggest explosion. Sometimes it's the one fired by someone who has spent their entire life learning to put a bullet exactly where it needs to be, exactly when it needs to be there. The war for Earth had officially begun, and humanity had just announced that they had no intention of surrendering quietly. The destruction of 12 Zephyrian dropships sent shockwaves throughout the alien fleet that had nothing to do with the explosions themselves. For an empire that had conquered 47 worlds without losing a single vessel to primitive kinetic weapons, the simultaneous losses represented something far more dangerous than military casualties. They represented the collapse of an assumption. Admiral Kezeth stood before the tactical display in the flagship's command center, his 6 eyes analyzing the data streams that his intelligence officers had compiled. The numbers told an impossible story. 12 projectiles, each fired from a different continent, had somehow arrived at their targets within microseconds of each other. The level of coordination required was theoretically beyond the capabilities of a species that hadn't even achieved faster-than-light travel. "Show me the synchronization analysis again," Kezeth ordered, his voice carrying a tension that his subordinates had never heard before. The holographic display recreated the attack in slow motion, tracking each bullet's trajectory from its origin point to impact. The precision was staggering, not just in terms of accuracy, but in timing. The margin of error across all 12 shots was less than 0.001 seconds. "Admiral," reported Science Cast Varen, "this level of coordination suggests either advanced quantum communication technology or mathematical precision beyond our initial assessment of human capabilities. Our intelligence networks found no evidence of either." Warcast Threx's image appeared via communication link, his usual confidence replaced by something that looked suspiciously like worry. The shield failures were not random. Each impact occurred at precisely the moment when our defensive grid was processing multiple simultaneous threats. They somehow calculated the exact timing needed to overload our systems. The silence in the command center was broken only by the soft humming of the ship's systems. Finally, Admiral Kezeth spoke. "Begin deep scans of the planet's surface. I want every human military installation, every communication network, every individual capable of operating long-range weapons identified and cataloged. If they can coordinate one such attack, they can coordinate others." But as the Zephyrian fleet repositioned for detailed reconnaissance, they failed to notice the subtle changes already occurring across Earth's surface. In mountain ranges, dense forests, urban ruins, and frozen tundra, human snipers were taking new positions. The success of the Ghost Protocol had validated Elena's theory about alien overconfidence, but it had also revealed something equally important. The enemy could learn. Elena crouched in the abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York City, studying satellite reconnaissance photos that showed Zephyrian ships conducting systematic scans of the areas where the previous attacks had originated. The aliens were adapting faster than she had hoped. "They're not stupid," she said to Colonel Thompson, who had joined her in the underground command post. "Look at these search patterns. They've identified all 12 firing positions, and they're expanding their sweeps in calculated spirals." Thompson nodded grimly. "Intel suggests they're bringing in specialized hunter units. Apparently, some of the species they've conquered had their own sniper equivalents. Then we need to show them the difference between their sniper equivalents and humans who've been perfecting this art for centuries," Elena replied, spreading out detailed maps of the surrounding area. "They're thinking like an advanced military force hunting individual marksmen. But we're not individual marksmen anymore. We're a network." Over the past 48 hours, Elena had been in constant communication with snipers around the world, sharing intelligence and coordinating what she called the web protocol. Instead of 12 synchronized shots from fixed positions, they would create a dynamic network of marksmen who could relocate rapidly and engage targets of opportunity throughout the alien occupation. The plan required abandoning traditional sniper tactics entirely. Instead of finding the perfect hiding spot and waiting for targets, human marksmen would become mobile hunters, using the aliens' own systematic approach against them. Every time a Zephyrian search team investigated a firing position, they would expose themselves to observation and attack from marksmen they didn't know existed. Viktor Petrov transmitted from his position in the Siberian wilderness, where he had been tracking an alien reconnaissance team for 3 days. "Da, I have visual on search party. 6 Zephyrians, full combat armor, scanning equipment. They are being very thorough. Very professional, also very predictable." Through encrypted channels, Elena could hear similar reports from snipers on every continent. The aliens were conducting textbook reconnaissance operations, following logical search patterns and using advanced sensors to scan for human activity. Their methodology was flawless by conventional military standards. It was also exactly what Elena had hoped they would do. "All ghost positions, this is Ghost Leader," she transmitted. "Begin web protocol implementation. Show them what happens when the hunters become the hunted." The next phase of the war began not with simultaneous precision strikes, but with something far more psychologically devastating. Individual Zephyrians started disappearing. The first incident occurred in the Amazon rainforest, where a 5-member alien reconnaissance team was investigating the firing position used by Ghost 7. Brazilian sniper Carlos Rodriguez had been tracking the team for 6 hours, studying their movement patterns and communication protocols. Unlike the synchronized attacks that had destroyed the dropships, this was classic sniper work: patience, precision, and the psychological impact of sudden, unexplained death. Carlos waited until the team was spread out in standard search formation. Their attention focused on scanning for evidence of human activity. His target was the team leader, identifiable by additional communication equipment and the way the other aliens deferred to its decisions. The shot was perfect. A single tungsten core bullet that punched through the alien's enhanced armor at the precise moment when its personal shield had powered down to avoid interfering with sensitive scanning equipment. The Zephyrian dropped instantly, its body hitting the forest floor with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the jungle quiet. The remaining 4 aliens immediately took defensive positions, their energy shields blazing to life as they scanned for threats. But Carlos was already gone, melting into the rainforest with the same skills that had made him legendary among South American military forces. For the next 3 hours, the alien team searched frantically for their attacker. Their sensors detected nothing. Their communications equipment registered no movement. Their advanced technology found no trace of human presence. But every time they thought the area was secure, another team member would fall to a precisely placed shot from an impossible angle. By the time a Zephyrian rescue unit arrived, they found 4 bodies and no trace of their killer. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. For the first time since beginning their expansion, Zephyrian soldiers were afraid to leave their ships. Similar incidents began occurring around the globe. In the Scottish Highlands, an alien patrol investigating Ghost 3's position found themselves being stalked by Sarah Mackenzie, who used her knowledge of the terrain to eliminate targets while remaining completely invisible to their sensors. In the Australian outback, Marine sniper Jake Wilson turned the vast desert into a killing field, where Zephyrian search teams would enter and never emerge. Each attack followed the same pattern: systematic elimination of individual aliens using tactics that their technology couldn't counter or predict. The shots came from impossible ranges, through environmental conditions that should have made accurate fire impractical, at moments when the targets felt most secure. On the Zephyrian flagship, casualty reports streamed in with increasing frequency. Admiral Kezith found himself facing a problem that no commander in the Empire's history had ever encountered: an enemy that his forces couldn't find, couldn't predict, and couldn't counter. 18 reconnaissance teams have reported casualties. Intelligence Cast Varen announced, his usual confidence replaced by visible confusion. In each case, team members were eliminated by single projectile hits from unknown positions. Our best efforts to locate the attackers have yielded no results. How is this possible? Demanded Warcast Threx, whose image flickered with static as his communication system struggled with atmospheric interference. Our sensors can detect a mouse at 3 kilometers. Our armor can withstand direct hits from plasma cannons. Our shields can deflect asteroid impacts. Science Cast Varen manipulated the holographic display to show the accumulated attack data. Preliminary analysis suggests the humans are exploiting momentary vulnerabilities in our defensive systems. Each shot appears to be timed for the microsecond intervals when shield's power cycle or armor joints create exposure points. The revelation sent a chill through the command center. The humans weren't just randomly shooting at Zephyrian forces, they were studying them, learning their weaknesses, and exploiting flaws that the aliens hadn't even known existed. But Elena's true masterstroke was still to come. Deep in the Nevada underground facility where the war effort was being coordinated, human scientists and military strategists had been analyzing every scrap of data collected from alien encounters. Dr. Foster's team had made a breakthrough that would fundamentally change the nature of the conflict. "Elena, you need to see this," Dr. Foster said, manipulating a 3-dimensional model that showed the internal structure of captured Zephyrian technology. We've been examining the debris from the destroyed dropships, and we found something interesting about their power systems. The display showed the interconnected network of energy conduits that powered alien weapons, shields, and life support systems. But more importantly, it showed the weak points where precise impacts could cause cascading failures throughout entire systems. Every piece of their technology is networked, Elena realized, studying the data. Take out the right component, and you don't just disable one system, you cripple everything. Exactly. And we've identified the optimal impact points for maximum system disruption. The problem is, they're internal targets, heavily armored and protected by multiple redundant shields. Elena smiled as an idea formed in her mind. What if we don't try to penetrate the armor? What if we make them take it off? Her plan was audacious even by the standards of the war so far. Instead of trying to punch through Zephyrian defenses, human forces would create situations where the aliens would voluntarily lower their shields and expose their vulnerabilities. It would require perfect timing, precise coordination, and an understanding of alien psychology that bordered on mind reading. But most importantly, it would require the aliens to believe they had finally cornered their tormentors. The trap was set in the ruins of Detroit, where intelligence reports indicated a major Zephyrian task force was preparing to establish a permanent base of operations. Elena's team had spent 3 days preparing the urban battlefield, placing concealed observation posts, calculating firing angles, and preparing escape routes through the city's extensive tunnel system. The aliens approached with overwhelming force, 30 combat troops in full armor, supported by hovering assault platforms and backed up by orbital bombardment capabilities. They had learned from their previous losses and were taking no chances with human marksmen. Elena watched through her scope as the Zephyrian force moved through the city streets with military precision. They were maintaining perfect formation, overlapping fields of fire, constant communication, and full defensive protocols. It was a textbook operation that would have easily overwhelmed any conventional military force. It was also exactly what she had been counting on. Ghost Team Alpha. Confirm ready status, she whispered into her radio. Alpha 2 ready, came Victor's voice from his position in the abandoned Ford plant. Alpha 3 ready, reported Sarah Mackenzie from her concealment in the Renaissance Center, one by one. But unlike previous operations, they wouldn't all be firing at the same targets. The Zephyrian force reached the city center where intelligence had indicated human resistance forces were supposedly gathering. They found empty streets, abandoned buildings, and no signs of human activity, but their sensors detected subtle traces, heat signatures, electromagnetic anomalies, chemical residues that suggested recent human presence. Spread out and search, ordered the alien commander, a massive Zephyrian whose armor bore the markings of veteran campaigns across multiple worlds. They're here. Find them. Elena smiled as she watched the aliens begin their search. Perfect military doctrine required them to investigate every potential hiding place, to clear each building systematically to ensure no threats remained in their operational area. It also required them to occasionally power down their energy shields to avoid interference with sensitive scanning equipment. The first shot came from Victor's position, a precisely placed round that struck an alien scanning device just as its operator had lowered his shields to recalibrate the equipment. The Zephyrian didn't die. The shot had been calculated to destroy the scanner while leaving its operator shaken but functional. Immediately, the entire alien force went to maximum alert, shields blazing to full power as they scanned for threats. But Victor was already gone, relocated to a position 3 buildings away. For the next hour, Elena's team conducted a masterclass in psychological warfare. Single shots would destroy equipment, disable vehicles, or wound individual aliens without killing them. Each attack came from a different position. Each shooter disappeared before return fire could be directed, and each incident left the Zephyrian force more frustrated and paranoid. The aliens began making mistakes. They fired at shadows, called in orbital strikes on empty buildings, and gradually broke formation as individual commanders tried to pursue targets that didn't exist. Their systematic search pattern devolved into an increasingly frantic hunt for enemies who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. And then Elena sprang her real trap. Through careful observation, she had identified the Zephyrian commander's personal weakness. He powered down his shields every time he used his command communication system to avoid signal interference. It was a brief vulnerability lasting less than 2 seconds, but Elena had been studying the timing for over an hour. She waited until the commander was in the middle of coordinating with his orbital support, standing in the open street while his shields flickered offline for system integration. Then, from a position over a kilometer away, she took the shot that would be remembered as the moment humanity announced itself as a galactic power. The bullet struck the Zephyrian commander's center mass, punching through his armor at the precise moment when all his defensive systems were offline. But instead of a kill shot, Elena had calculated the impact to disable without destroying. She wanted the commander alive, wounded, and most importantly, afraid. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. For the first time in Zephyrian military history, a field commander had been successfully engaged and wounded by primitive kinetic weapons. The invincible empire had been proven mortal. As medical teams evacuated the wounded commander, Elena's voice echoed across all Zephyrian communication frequencies. "This is Sergeant Elena Vasquez, United States Army, speaking for the human resistance. You wanted to see what our snipers could do. Consider this a demonstration of why we've spent thousands of years perfecting the art of precision warfare." The transmission continued as Zephyrian forces across the globe received their first direct communication from human military leadership. "You conquered 47 worlds by convincing them that resistance was hopeless. But you made one critical error in your assessment of humanity. We're not like the other species you've defeated. We don't surrender. We adapt. We learn. And we get better." Elena's words were being broadcast not just to Earth but throughout the Zephyrian communication network, reaching every ship in the fleet and every soldier on the ground. "You mocked our snipers as primitives playing with obsolete weapons. You laughed at our tactics as the desperate attempts of an inferior species. You offered us the honor of serving your empire. Here's our response." The transmission ended with coordinates, locations throughout human space where Zephyrian forces could find snipers willing to engage in what Elena called educational demonstrations. But now the aliens would be the students, learning hard lessons about what happened when advanced technology met human determination. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kezeth stared at tactical displays showing his forces in retreat from positions they should have been able to hold indefinitely. Medical reports indicated 17 wounded soldiers, destroyed equipment valued in the millions of credits, and morale damage that would take cycles to repair. For the first time since the expansion began, the Admiral was forced to consider the possibility that Earth's integration into the Empire might not proceed according to plan. In command centers across the human homeworld, military leaders watched as alien forces began withdrawing to orbital positions, abandoning their ground operations in favor of high-altitude bombardment strategies. The tactical situation had reversed completely. The invaders were now afraid to come within range of human ground forces. Elena packed her rifle as reports streamed in from around the globe. Human snipers had eliminated or wounded over 100 Zephyrian soldiers, destroyed millions of dollars worth of advanced equipment, and forced a technologically superior enemy to abandon conventional invasion tactics. But more importantly, they had sent a message that would echo throughout the galaxy. Humanity would not go quietly into servitude. Every planet in the Zephyrian Empire, every species considering resistance, every civilization watching the invasion of Earth had learned that sometimes the most primitive weapons, wielded by determined defenders who refused to acknowledge defeat, could humble the mightiest military forces. The war was far from over. The aliens would return with new tactics, better defenses, and strategies designed to counter human precision warfare. But they would never again underestimate the species that had turned individual marksmen into a planetary defense network. The first kill shot had echoed across the galaxy. Now every civilization in the cosmos knew that Earth's children had teeth. And they were not afraid to bare them against anyone who threatened their home. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of human resistance had begun.